The South China Sea is a superhighway for global trade, connecting the Indian and Pacific Oceans. Trillions of dollars in goods, like your smartphone or clothes, move through these waters every year. Its strategic location links Asia's major economies to the world, making it vital for international shipping. Beneath the waves lie vast reserves of oil and natural gas, highly coveted by Southeast Asian nations seeking energy security. This competition for resources fuels ongoing disputes and tensions among neighboring countries. The sea is also a crucial fishing ground, supporting millions of livelihoods and regional food security. Overfishing and clashing claims have made fishing another flashpoint. Coast guards and fishermen from rival countries often face off, sometimes escalating into international incidents. The South China Sea's mix of trade, resources, and strategic value makes it a potential global flashpoint. Any disruption here could send shockwaves through the world economy. That's why world powers, from Washington to Brussels, watch these waters closely. The stability of this sea is essential for global peace and prosperity. What happens here affects us all. The South China Sea dispute is a tangled web of overlapping claims. China's claim is the largest, covering almost the entire sea, but Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, and Taiwan all assert sovereignty over various islands and waters. Each country bases its claim on a mix of history, geography, and international law, resulting in a confusing patchwork of competing maps. Vietnam and China clash over the Paracel and Spratly Islands, each citing centuries-old evidence. The Philippines relies on international law, calling its claimed waters the West Philippine Sea, and has taken its case to an international tribunal. Malaysia and Brunei claim smaller areas based on their exclusive economic zones. Taiwan's claim mirrors China's, rooted in pre-1949 history. These overlapping claims make diplomacy difficult and every move a potential provocation. The result, a region where tension is always just below the surface. China's claim centers on the 9-dash line, a sweeping U-shaped boundary covering 90% of the South China Sea. Beijing says this line reflects centuries of Chinese presence and control, a narrative taught in schools and promoted in state media, but other countries present their own historical evidence, challenging China's version of history. The 9-dash line is vague, lacking precise coordinates, raising questions about what China is actually claiming: islands, waters, or resources. Modern international law, especially the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, grants coastal states a 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone. China's claim cuts deep into these zones, directly conflicting with the rights of its neighbors. This clash between historical claims and international law is the core legal problem in the South China Sea. The ambiguity fuels anxiety and mistrust across the region. Resolving it remains one of the world's toughest diplomatic challenges. The South China Sea's history is marked by conflict and confrontation. In 1974, China seized the Paracel Islands from South Vietnam in a bloody naval battle, setting a precedent for using force. The 1988 Johnson South Reef skirmish saw Chinese and Vietnamese navies clash again, leaving dozens dead and deepening mistrust. More recently, standoffs have replaced open battles. In 2012, Chinese and Philippine vessels faced off at Scarborough Shoal. China has controlled it ever since. In 2014, China's deployment of a giant oil rig into waters claimed by Vietnam sparked a crisis, with ships ramming each other and anti-China protests erupting in Vietnam. These incidents show how even small reefs or fishing grounds can trigger major confrontations. The pattern is clear: every new move risks escalation. The region's history is a warning: tensions can quickly spiral out of control. The stakes are high, and memories of past clashes shape every decision. The South China Sea remains a powder keg. In 2013, the Philippines took China to international court, challenging the legality of the 9-dash line under UNCLOS. China refused to participate, dismissing the tribunal's authority. In 2016, the tribunal ruled overwhelmingly in favor of the Philippines, declaring China's historic claims had no legal basis. The ruling also found that many disputed features were not true islands and could not generate large exclusive economic zones. China rejected the decision outright, calling it waste paper. With no enforcement mechanism, the ruling's impact depends on international pressure. China has continued building artificial islands and asserting control, ignoring the verdict. Still, the ruling remains a powerful legal and diplomatic tool for those challenging Beijing's claims. China has transformed the South China Sea's landscape with massive land reclamation. Submerged reefs have become artificial islands, now bristling with airstrips, ports, and military facilities. These outposts extend China's military reach, acting as unsinkable aircraft carriers in the heart of Southeast Asia. China's cabbage strategy surrounds contested features with layers of fishing boats, Coast Guard, and Navy ships, making it hard for rivals to respond without risking escalation. By using non-military vessels, China asserts control in a gray zone, changing facts on the water without open conflict. This incremental approach, sometimes called salami slicing, gradually shifts the status quo in China's favor. Militarily, these islands let China control key sea lanes and airspace. Economically, they help enforce claims over fishing grounds and energy resources. Politically, they create a new reality, making it harder for others to challenge China's dominance. It's a long-term strategy, one that's reshaping the region without firing a shot. The world is watching, but China's grip keeps tightening. The balance of power is shifting. The United States isn't a claimant, but it has vital interests in the South China Sea. Washington insists on freedom of navigation, ensuring all ships and aircraft can pass through these waters under international law. To challenge China's claims, the U.S. Navy conducts regular freedom of navigation operations, sailing warships near disputed islands. These missions often lead to tense encounters with Chinese forces, raising the risk of miscalculation. China sees these operations as provocations and accuses the U.S. of interfering in regional affairs. The U.S. presence reassures allies like the Philippines and Vietnam, and strengthens military partnerships across Southeast Asia. For many in the region, America is a counterweight to China's growing power. The South China Sea has become a stage for great power rivalry. Every patrol, every warning, is a test of resolve. The stakes couldn't be higher. ASEAN, a bloc of 10 Southeast Asian nations, sits at the heart of the South China Sea dispute. 4 members, Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei, are claimants, but the group struggles to present a united front. For decades, ASEAN and China have negotiated a code of conduct to prevent conflict, but progress is slow. ASEAN's consensus rule means any member can block strong action, and China's economic influence over some states complicates unity. As a result, statements are often watered down and the group's effectiveness is questioned. Divisions force claimant states to pursue their own strategies, legal action, military upgrades, or quiet diplomacy. ASEAN's dilemma, balancing China, its top trading partner, and the US, a key security ally. The group's unity and relevance are on the line. Without cohesion, ASEAN risks being sidelined in its own backyard. The South China Sea tests the limits of regional cooperation. The world is watching to see if ASEAN can rise to the challenge. The stakes are regional stability and ASEAN's future. The future of the South China Sea is uncertain. The status quo could persist, with simmering tensions and no resolution in sight. A more hopeful path would see China and ASEAN agree on a binding code of conduct, lowering risks and encouraging cooperation on resources. But there's also a darker scenario, a clash triggered by accident or miscalculation, spiraling into military conflict. Any confrontation, especially between China and the US, would have global consequences. The choices made in Beijing, Washington, and Southeast Asia will shape the outcome. The risk of conflict is real and growing. Resolving these disputes demands skilled diplomacy, respect for international law, and compromise. The world's peace and prosperity depend on what happens in these contested waters. The South China Sea's future is a test for us all.